Today is January 1st, 2025, and as I speak, one of the best New Year's Day traditions ever is going on right now, and that is the Rose Bowl game. I was a member of the University of Wisconsin marching band. I had the incredible fortune of being a part of the 2020 Rose Bowl, and I want to share a little bit about my experience, take some time to reminisce on that time, and share a little bit with you guys about what goes on behind the scenes at the Rose Bowl. As you guys know, the Rose Bowl is incredibly prestigious. There are hundreds of marching bands throughout the country that dream of going to a Rose Bowl but never ever get one. And I was fortunate enough to get a Rose Bowl on my very first bowl game as a freshman with the University of Wisconsin marching band. Like I said, one of the most impactful, one of the most profound, one of the highest honors I think I've ever had in my life. And I still kind of very proudly wear the Rose Bowl on my sleeve. With this shirt, this is the jacket that we got from the bowl game. It's got the rose on the back. So you can also see right here, there's a photo of the marching band on the field at the Rose Bowl. Still have that hanging in my house. And then I also have a drum head that was used in the Rose Bowl. I have that hanging on my wall in there. I still have a lot of awesome things to remind me of that time, and I keep them around because of what a great honor it was to be a part of the Rose Bowl. It was not lost on me. It was not lost on anybody how awesome this experience is. Obviously the game and the parade are televised, but there's a lot of things that we do in the lead up to the bowl game. So I remember we had a performance at Disneyland. That was a lot of fun. We had a performance at the Staples Center. So the band was really busy. We were on the move all the time. They would budget us about 6 hours of sleep a night. I think we'd get to bed at midnight. We'd get up at 6, do a full day of performances, rehearsals, and it was exhausting. So I remember there were people that asked me after the Rose Bowl, they're like, how was it? Tell me all about it. And I was like, man, it was the greatest experience of my life, but I never want to do it again. I think maybe I might change that now, just being so far from removed from it because it has been 5 years. I might like to go back to the Rose Bowl, but it was just such an exhausting experience. I remember when we got free time, there are people that wanted to go out and explore the city, explore LA. All I wanted to do was lay in bed. I was like, I can't handle this. This is too much. I want to lay down and sleep. The actual day of the Rose Bowl, that began at some ungodly hour. I think it was like 2:30 in the morning was when they woke us up. We had to be in line for the parade at about 4, and I think it started around 8, maybe earlier, 7. I have this strange memory of kind of in a haze, waking up, you just throw on your band uniform and you go. So I remember doing that kind of in a fog of oh my gosh, the Rose Bowl is today. It was a very kind of surreal feeling. Wow, this is it. It's here. It's today. We loaded ourselves on the buses, and I think I was among some of the more functional members of the band. The previous night, they did what we call a baton drop, where the drum major takes their baton and drops it at whatever midnight would be in Central Time in Wisconsin, where we were from. They did the baton drop, which was our ball drop. I didn't stay up for that because I was just so tired. So some people had stayed up for that, and some people had stayed up even later than that just because they're insane and college students, and I guess they wanted to get the most of the experience. So some of the people that morning were very non-functional. They were very grouchy, very angry, very upset. We managed to get everybody onto the buses and bus us down to the parade. And there slowly, there was some excitement building, but I remember we were still pretty groggy. So one of the upperclassmen, he was a bass drummer, got on the microphone on the bus and just started telling us random stories about his life. He was telling us how when he was in high school, he put his hand in the blade of a snowblower, and he said he lost feeling in the left side of his body, and then he tried out for the lacrosse team and he made it or something like that. And it was just a really bizarre story, but that's the memory I have of that morning, kind of looking out the window. It's still pitch black outside. I think it was kind of to try to rile us up and get some energy. And slowly but surely the energy did build. And I think when the sun came up, that was really when people started getting excited because you could see out. So we were looking out at the city of Pasadena, kind of seeing, some of the preparations that were underway. We were behind the scenes of the parade. So, there were the floats getting set up and some of the bands starting to assemble. And that's kind of when, we get the first look at everything. And that's when the energy started to build. I forget specifically where we were in the parade order. I think it was pretty solidly in the middle. Something like that, but we didn't even care. We were just so excited by this point because we spent so much time preparing for this parade, for this moment. The Rose Parade is 5 miles long. And it's pretty grueling. You're out in the California heat. You are playing your instrument. You're wearing your wool outfit. And then specific to the Wisconsin Marching Band, we would do our high step whenever we played on Wisconsin, which is very like physically demanding, very intense. There was a lot of physical conditioning that went into preparing for the Rose Bowl and the Rose Parade. And starting that parade was like the start of that day, the day that we had prepared for so long. Just like the football players do, they have to lift the weights, they have to do all the cardio. We were doing the exact same stuff. If you can imagine kind of the energy that was building at that point, it was intoxicating. I remember we were in formation, we were walking down the street, and all of a sudden kind of some palm trees came into view. And all of a sudden we heard the whistle from the drum major. It was like, get ready to go. And so we're like, oh my gosh, here we go. We're, the Rose Bowl, oh my gosh. It was just like a jolt of electricity went through all of us. We're like, this is the Rose Bowl. Here we come. The directors were telling us all about the TV corner, which is what you guys see on national TV. You see, the bands or whatever floats come by. They come by what's called TV corner, which is where all of the cameras are, the people that are commentating on TV, stuff like that. So TV corner was huge for us because that, was our 1 second in the national spotlight. So we prepared kind of this fancy turn that we were going to do around TV corner because it's not just a 90-degree turn. I think it goes past, it's like they had a number, it's like 112 degrees or something like that. They had it down to a science. So we were preparing to do this TV corner turn, and when we did that, we wanted to play on Wisconsin and get the crowd all riled up. I remember the directors were like, they had to have been messing with us because they're like, this is the long parade, and you got to save your energy for TV corner. So they're like, we're going to pace you guys, but just so you know, we have to be able to go all out when we get to TV corner. And they kept saying this as if it was like way down the line, like 4 miles into the parade. It was like right there. It was like a quarter mile from the start of the parade, not even. But I remember kind of walking down this main drag in formation as the parade was starting, and there were so many Wisconsin fans, and they all wanted us to play something, and we couldn't because we were trying to time it so that when we started playing, we're at TV corner. And I just remember like seeing all these fans. I was like, man, I'm so sorry. Like, I wish we could play something for you guys. And I remember it was a great parade. We hit the TV corner. We blasted on Wisconsin. The crowd went crazy. The thing that I think is so funny is that they gave us water before the start of the parade. It was like a standard like plastic water bottle, and the directors told us drink half of it before you go, and then crumple the bottle and up like with half the water in it, and then put it in your pocket and drink the other half during the parade. That's all you get. I think they had some people with water if there was like an emergency, but we had, 1 bottle of water to go during the parade route. So I remember, getting to the middle of the parade, being like, okay, my arm's a little sore because I'm holding them here at attention. Starting, my lips are getting tired, things like that, because it's a lot of playing. There's a lot of people that want to hear you play. They all want to see you. They all want to hear from you. And especially being the Wisconsin band, we had to be able to high step every time we played on Wisconsin. And I remember towards the middle, 2.5, 3 mile mark, I was like, okay, I'm feeling it. Like, this is the Rose Parade. I remember toward the end, it was like the 4.5 mile mark or whatever. I was like, okay, I'm about ready to be done. I've seen it all. I've done it all. And I remember the mountains in the back were so beautiful, and there was this big red balloon. And so we're getting closer and closer to the red balloon. We're like turning off the road. I was like, oh man, maybe this is the end. Maybe we're coming to the end of the parade. And there's all these people at the end of the parade. I don't know if they do this every year or if they just did it for us or what, but they have these signs that they're like encouraging you. They're like, way to go. You're halfway done. You're almost there, halfway to go. And I was like, there's no way. I'm like, are we only 2.5 miles in? And I remember kind of looking around. I was like, man, I don't know how much more I have in me. Like, I need to take a break. And that kind of scared me a little bit, to be honest. But thankfully, they were just trying to mess with us because the end of the parade route was right there. So we had to pack up our instruments, throw them on the bus, and then we all got in line for In-N-Out. They were serving In-N-Out burgers, which is like a California staple. And I remember, I was tired, but I was kind of like, a greasy burger, like, do I want that right now? My stomach's a little upset, whatever. And they handed me, it was a tray with 2 huge burgers. I mean, like big burgers. It was 2 burgers. I think it was an apple, and then it was a candy bar. I was like, man, this looks like too much food. I don't know if I'm going to eat this all. I kid you not, within 5 minutes, I had it all. Like, I had eaten it all. The burgers, the apple, everything. I was like, oh my gosh. Like, I didn't know what happened. Something came over me and I just became ravenous. So after we all ate, we loaded up the buses and then we headed to the Rose Bowl game. And that was the part where we were super excited for that too. We had a little pregame performance for the like tailgate. There were like some alumni and some Badger fans and things like that. And then the big moment that we were all waiting for was pregame. The Wisconsin band, we do our high step, like I said, that high step routine, and it's very energy demanding, very, very cardio intensive, but we take so much pride in it because it's hard and not everybody can do it. And we have this saying called eat a rock. And eat a rock essentially means we do hard things because they're hard. And if everybody could do them, then it wouldn't be worth doing. There's a certain sense of like pride that comes with that we always put on display during the home games that we perform at. But there was something different about the Rose Bowl. It was like we all got struck by lightning. I mean, this was insane. It was the Rose Bowl. We are going on the field at the Rose Bowl. Oh my gosh, what? Even now I'm just jittery about it. What a feeling. What a feeling. You can't buy that with money. You can't capture that. You can't. It's just something that is so great, so awesome. I remember for that pregame, I mean, I was wiped from the parade, but there was no way I wasn't going to go hard for this pregame. I was like, we are going nuts. We run out of the tunnel, bust out onto the field, and that was probably the best pregame I think I've ever put on in my life. I mean, I was like focused in. They talk about the flow state, and I remember just blasting my lungs out because I knew all the music that we were playing. I had it all memorized, and I was like, I'm not going to leave anything on this field. I'm going hard for the Rose Bowl. I was getting my knees as high as I could. I was blasting as loud as I could into this trombone. We put on pregame, and like adrenaline is just coursing through my veins. So by the time we finished, I didn't even feel exhausted at that point. I was like, let's go, let's go for more. Thankfully, we got some time. We get to go off to the sidelines, go up into the stands, and then the game began. So I think I watched a couple plays of the game, and then I left the stadium to go see my dad. My dad traveled from Wisconsin to a plant in California for his company that he worked at. He worked there for a week. He had witnessed the Rose Parade that morning, and then he and I met up at the game. And that memory is so special to me. I like that moment was so great. Like seeing him at the Rose Bowl there to see me, just an awesome experience. I gave him a hug. I told him how glad I was that he was there. And then I had to get back to the stands because we were playing stand tunes and things. So went back into the game. We were looking across the field at Oregon the entire time. The marching band was there in their tracksuits. Gotta love that. We were trying to compete with Oregon. The football team was competing with their football team. Our band was competing with their band. We had kind of this vendetta against Oregon. We were like, we want to show you what a real marching band looks like. So every time the director queued us up to play, it was just loud. We're pushing noise, pushing the tempo. So the moment had finally come for halftime, and that was the moment that we were preparing for ever since we left. We spent so much time on this halftime show, wanted to make it perfect for the Rose Bowl audience, and just for the kind of the historical factor of it too. Like the next time we put on a show at the Rose Bowl could be 10 plus years, and they're going to look back on our show and take pointers from this. How did we put it on? What are the things that we did? Our show, it was a salute to military veterans. It was our armed forces medley that we did earlier in the season, and I just think it went so great. By the point that we got to the Rose Bowl and we were about to put on the halftime show, I was like, man, I got this. I don't feel any anxiety. I don't feel any worry, any stress. I'm like, let's just go out there, because all of the kind of the excitement, the adrenaline sort of had passed, and I was like, let's just do this, let's go put on a show. And we certainly did. The band looked awesome. The band sounded awesome. At the end of halftime, the band all takes a knee, and then we do what we call a knee bow, where we dip, and then we go up with our horns. And I remember just this awesome moment of looking up at the press box. It says the Rose Bowl game, or the Rose Bowl. And there was this beautiful purple sunset, just beautiful. And I remember kind of blowing the last note of the show and feeling this sense of like completion. I was like, this is the end of my first semester of college. It was like, here it is. This is the culminating moment of all of the hard work that I put in, everything that I've done came down here to this beautiful purple sunset at the end of the Rose Bowl. After halftime, things kind of went downhill, obviously, because we lost the game. So the one incomplete part of my Rose Bowl experience was that I did not get the win. Putting all that energy and excitement into that day and coming out with a loss is really kind of a crushing feeling. As we were leaving the stadium, I had my white gloves on, my performance gloves, and I took them and I just did a big smear across the Wisconsin end zone. I got a bunch of red paint on them, and I still have that pair of gloves today. So after this all ended, we had to fly home. That's right, the day wasn't over. The band raided some froyo shop that was near a hotel. We all got a bunch of frozen yogurt, and then we got on the bus and left. Got on the plane, flew home, and that's really, I think, where the exhaustion started to hit, was sitting still on that plane. And I remember just being so tired, but kind of not really being able to sleep. If I did sleep on that flight, it was like a trance almost. It wasn't like sleep in the normal way, because I was still just so wired, and it's like every time I closed my eyes, all I could think about was the Rose Bowl. And I have this one specific memory too of the flight attendant walking down the aisle. He was offering people sandwiches. You could either get turkey or meatball. So I remember him walking down the aisle asking every person, turkey or meatball, turkey or meatball, turkey or meatball. I picked a meatball sub, and it was a good sub. So we touched down in Madison. I forget what time it was. It was near dawn. So they put us back on buses. They bussed us back to the McLean Center, which is the athletic complex there. And we had to wait for our luggage to be brought from the airport because they were unloading it off the plane. The entire marching band was just sprawled out. All these people laying on their backpacks, snoozing. I think it was the wrestling team had a rehearsal that morning, and they were running laps around the sleeping marching band. So we sat and waited. It was a long time. It was 2 or 3 hours, I think, sitting and waiting for our luggage. Finally, the luggage arrived, and we all kind of picked it up, and then everybody dispersed and went home. And thankfully, I didn't have far to go because I was staying with an upperclassman who lived basically across the street from Camp Randall. Another really awesome memory I have from this is seeing the sunrise over Camp Randall. I think it was about 8:30 in the morning, 8 or 8:30. Just seeing the sunrise over Camp Randall as I was walking out, and just thinking to myself, wow, I just did the Rose Bowl. Less than a day ago, I was at the Rose Bowl, and this feeling of accomplishment I had was just so overwhelming in that moment. I was so grateful. I had so much gratitude. And it was just an amazing experience. I think the entire Rose Bowl was about 28 hours. It was a full day plus some. If I slept at all, it was only for an hour or two on the plane. And I remember that really messed up my sleep for the next couple days. I think I only slept from 8 till 11 that day for 3 hours, and then I was up and at 'em. I was ready to go, because again, I was just so wired. Even the Rose Bowl was over, I just couldn't sleep. It was the next day, the day after the Rose Bowl, I slept for 13 hours. I went to bed at 9 at night, and I woke up at 10 a.m. the next day, because that's when it really hit me, all of that sleep deprivation and all of that energy I expelled. But I just remember waking up after that 13-hour sleep and just feeling like a new person. That was the end of the Rose Bowl, and it was something that I'm so grateful for. It was such an amazing experience. I hope that anybody who's watching this, if you ever get the chance to go to the Rose Bowl, even just to spectate it, absolutely go, because it is such a fun time. It's such a great tradition. And it's so awesome to see. There's parades, there's marching bands, there's food, there's people, there's sports. There is so much love and care put into this event, and there's some really awesome people that put it on. And it's such an honor to be a part of something like that. And now, as I'm sitting here 5 years later, January 1st, 2025, I'm hoping the Wisconsin's going to get back there. I mean, we didn't even get a bowl game this season, which is not great. That kind of sucks, but the state of the football team is another thing. I would love to see the Wisconsin band go back to the Rose Bowl in my lifetime. I would definitely travel out there and go see them, because that was just such a great time. Such a great time. So many great memories from that.